Throughout history, there has been a hidden art, a secret knowledge reserved for a few initiates, a mystery wrapped in symbols, metaphors, and cryptic formulas that have puzzled entire generations. It is about alchemy, but not the kind that seeks to turn lead into gold, rather a much deeper and more powerful one: spiritual alchemy. What if I told you that within you exists a latent force capable of transmuting your essence, transforming your shadows into light, your fears into wisdom, and your suffering into evolution? Spiritual alchemy is the lost key to understanding the true purpose of existence, the process through which the soul purifies itself and reaches its highest state. From the ancient Egyptian alchemists to the Hermetists of the Renaissance, this teaching has been passed down in coded texts, in secret manuscripts, and in enigmatic symbols, waiting for someone with enough vision to decipher them. But today, we will reveal what has remained hidden for centuries. In this video, we will explore the origin and essence of spiritual alchemy, how its principles have been preserved over time, and most importantly, how you can apply this knowledge in your life to achieve true inner awakening. Get ready for a journey into the unknown, where transformation is not an abstract concept, but a reality within reach for those who dare to look beyond the obvious. Alchemy has been since time immemorial, a hidden science and a sacred practice that has been transmitted through generations of wise individuals. Its origins are lost in the mists of antiquity, but the earliest evidence of its existence takes us to the banks of the Nile, where Egyptian priests considered it a divine knowledge linked to all. It was in this civilization that alchemy began to be associated not only with the transformation of metals, but also with the transformation of the human spirit. Plato spoke of reality as a shadow of a higher truth, while the Stoics believed in internal transmutation as a path to enlightenment. However, it was during the Hellenistic period that alchemy took on a new dimension, merging with the teachings of Hermeticism, a set of doctrines attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, the mythical sage who taught the maxim, "As above, so below, so without." During the Middle Ages, alchemy was guarded by the Arabs, who refined it and spread its knowledge throughout Europe. In this era, alchemy took two paths: the material, which sought the transmutation of metals, and the spiritual, which focused on the transformation of the soul. It was then that figures like Paracelsus and the Rosicrucians emerged, who viewed alchemy as a tool to achieve human perfection. Alchemists were not merely experimenters in their laboratories. They were mystics, philosophers, and visionaries who understood that the true great work resided not in the external world, but within the self. In their symbolism, we find dragons purifying fire, mercury, and sulfur. But at their core, each of these elements hides messages about the evolution of the spirit. Over the centuries, alchemy has been shrouded in mystery and metaphor. But now it's time to decipher its hidden code and understand how these ancient principles can be applied in our daily lives. Spiritual alchemy is the art of internal transformation, the transmutation of our deepest essence into something greater. Just as the ancient alchemists attempted to turn lead into gold, spiritual alchemy invites us to refine our consciousness, elevating it from a state of ignorance and limitation to one of illumination and wisdom. But how is this transformation achieved? The sages of antiquity established that the alchemical process unfolds in several phases, each representing a state of being that must be transcended to attain perfection. These phases not only describe the purification of metals, but also reveal a map of personal and spiritual evolution. The work in black represents the moment of decomposition, the symbolic death of the ego, and all the illusions that bind us to a limited existence. It's the initial chaos, the confrontation with our shadow, a clash with our fears and weaknesses. This phase can be experienced as a crisis, a dark night of the soul, where everything we believe secure starts to crumble. However, just as a seed needs to be buried in darkness before it can sprout, the spirit must traverse this state of decay to later be reborn with greater clarity. Once we have gone through the nigredo, we arrive at the albedo. The work in white is the process of purification, the cleansing of the spirit from all impurity. Here we learn to cultivate mental clarity, serenity, and detachment from negative emotions. This phase is associated with introspection and self-knowledge. It's the time when we begin to see the world with new eyes, free from the distortions of the ego. Alchemists represented this stage with the image of the bright moon, reflecting the light of truth. This is where spiritual practices, such as meditation, prayer, fasting, and energetic work, play a key role. They help us purify our thoughts, emotions, and actions to prepare for the next level of transmutation. In this phase, the golden light of awakening begins to manifest. It's the state where wisdom starts to shine within us. Citrinitas is the union of the conscious and the unconscious, of reason and intuition, of spirit and matter. Here, we learn that true knowledge is not found in books or external teachings, but in direct experience with the divine. Alchemy tells us that gold is not obtained solely through fire, but with patience and understanding of the cycles of nature and the soul. Great spiritual masters have gone through this phase, understanding that enlightenment is not a permanent state, but a process of evolution. But the last and most elevated transformation still awaits. We have journeyed from the darkness of nigredo through the purification of albedo. Now we reach the final phase of the great alchemical work, rubedo, the work in red. Here occurs true transmutation, the moment when the lead of our lower nature turns into the gold of full consciousness. Rubedo is the culmination of the alchemical process. It is the sacred marriage between the soul and the spirit. It represents the total awakening of consciousness when duality dissolves, and we understand that we have always been part of the whole. In esoteric tradition, this state is represented by the image of the phoenix, which rises from its own ashes, symbolizing the immortality of the spirit. It is also the rebirth of the sun, the arrival of pure light after facing the darkness of ignorance and suffering. Rubedo is the crystallization of our true being. Here, we no longer fight against duality, but rather integrate it. We no longer seek the light outside of ourselves, but understand that we are the light. This state has been attained by the great spiritual masters of humanity: Buddha, Jesus, Hermes, Trismegistus, Lao Tzu. They all traversed this journey of inner transformation. But alchemy teaches us that enlightenment is not a privilege of the few, but a destiny that we can all achieve if we follow the path with determination. If we observe closely, we realize that alchemy was never just about turning metals into gold. That was merely a metaphor to conceal its true purpose, the transformation of the human being into its highest version. Each of us is a potential alchemist, capable of changing our destiny and raising our vibration. However, for this, we must commit to the great work, to the transmutation of the ego into consciousness, of fear into love, of shadow into light. However, knowing this is not enough. Alchemy is an art that must be practiced. Spiritual alchemy is not just a philosophical concept or an abstract idea reserved for mystics. It is a living practice that can transform your life if you apply its principles with discipline and awareness. Let us see how each stage of the great work can be reflected in our everyday life, and what tools we can use to accelerate our inner evolution. The first phase of the alchemical process invites us to confront our own darkness, those parts of ourselves we deny. But how can we apply this in our daily life? One practice is self-observation. Keep a journal to record thought patterns, recurring emotions, and automatic reactions. What limiting beliefs are holding you back? Working with the shadow, as Carl Jung spoke of integrating the repressed aspects of our psyche, is essential. Meditation, introspection, and therapy can help you recognize and heal these hidden aspects. Additionally, purification rituals found in many spiritual traditions include practices like fasting, herbal baths, burning incense, or writing down negative thoughts on paper to later burn them. These symbolic acts represent the dissolution of the old and create space for transformation. After the symbolic death in nigredo, we enter albedo, where light begins to filter into our consciousness. Here, we work on mental and emotional purification to elevate ourselves to a higher level of perception. Practices of meditation and mindfulness assist us in achieving this transformation. Quiet your mind to observe non-attachment, the thoughts and emotions that arise. Exercises of gratitude and compassion cultivate elevated emotions, dissolve remnants of negativity, and open the heart to a higher vibration. Contact with nature, walking barefoot on the earth, immersing in water, or simply breathing deeply outdoors helps cleanse the energy field. This phase represents the moment when the light of knowledge illuminates our existence. We have purified the dense, and now we are ready to integrate higher understanding into our lives. The study of sacred texts and esoteric philosophy, as well as exploring the wisdom of ancient traditions, provides us with tools to comprehend reality from a higher perspective. Applying knowledge in everyday life is not enough to just read about spirituality. We must live it. How can you act with more awareness in your relationships, work, and daily choices? Creative visualization and affirmations, using mental imagery and positive decrees, reprogram our minds to align with our highest selves. The final phase of the great work is crystallization of the entire process. Here, the alchemical person has been reborn with a new vision and a clear purpose, serving others. The true alchemist does not seek transformation solely for themselves, but to share their light with the world. Helping others is a way to solidify our spiritual evolution. Conscious creation, whether in art, writing, work, or relationships, everything we do can become an expression of our new state of consciousness. Integrating inner balance means accepting both light and shadow without judgment, recognizing that everything is part of the same process of evolution. Throughout this journey, we've explored the mysteries of spiritual alchemy, unraveling its symbols and applying them to our internal transformation. From the dissolution in the nigredo stage, through the purification of the albedo, the illumination of the citrinitas, to the manifestation of the authentic self in the rubedo. Each stage has revealed a deep path of self-knowledge and transcendence. But here lies the great secret. Spiritual alchemy is not a destination, but a continuous process. It's not about reaching a final state of enlightenment, but about turning every experience, every challenge, and every victory into a step towards greater expansion of consciousness. The alchemical gold is not a metal, it is your own evolution. The great alchemists of history understood that true power lies not in transforming lead into physical gold, but in turning ignorance into wisdom, fear into love, and separation into unity. Now, the final question is, are you willing to embark on your great work? If this knowledge has resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on which phase of spiritual alchemy you are in. Apply the shared tools to begin your transformation. Share this message if you believe it can inspire others. And keep exploring by subscribing to the channel to uncover the mysteries of existence and the evolution of the soul.